I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe
I
that
think somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
really don't
have said?
know. I mean, I really don't know. Could be.
Verbalonlife.
How you guys doing? You know, it's crazy that they're convincing us that the Kamala administration is better than Trump's. The media is working overtime for this. In this video, let's check out a report from the Fox, Maria Bartiromo, talking about everything that they're doing, including censorship. But welcome to Verbal on Life. My name is Noel, battling MS. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to bring you guys live coverage every day. Now let's take a look. This is crazy.
Welcome back. Vice President Kamala Harris set to unveil her economic agenda in North Carolina today. She's expected to say that companies are conducting price gouging. That could mean that she's going to call for price fixing on food and groceries. We're watching for that. The vice president joined yesterday.
Price gouging. Sounds like Biden. That's what he used to talk about. Companies price gouging people. Just sounds dumb. They've been using this since the late 80s.
By President Biden at a Maryland event, even as Harris is reportedly now trying to distance herself from Biden's economic policies. Fox News' Peter Doocy pressing Biden on this yesterday. Watch.
How much does it bother you that Vice President Harris might soon, for political reasons, start to distance herself from your economic?
She's not going to.
No. Joining me now is Missouri Congressman Eric Burleson, a member of the House Oversight, Transportation and Infrastructure and Education and Workforce Committees. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning. What are you expecting from Kamala Harris on her economic plan today? So far, she has said that she's going to make a federal ban on price gouging. What do you think that means?
Yeah, I fully expect her to go that.
That means she doesn't know what she's talking about. And she needs a phrase to throw out there to the people.
Populist route, but all we have to do is look at countries like Russia, Venezuela, countries that have tried to use these principles to try to control the market. But look, nothing controls price fixing or reduces the prices for customers like a competitor, like competition, like the free market. And yet this is the path that they're going to go down. Just ask Jimmy Carter how price fixing worked when he tried to address the price of gasoline.
Yeah, I mean, she's not using the words price fixing, but that's what it looks like, right? I mean, if she's saying that companies are price gouging, then she wants prices at a fixed rate.
Yeah, and that's just going to reduce the supply that's available to consumers. It's going to be reduced choice, which is ultimately going to be punishing and suffocating on the American economy.
And at the end of the day, politicians just use catchphrases that sounds good, that they believe people are going to understand and say, yeah, this politician is on my side. She's trying to help out. And they don't really know the math or know the business side of things. Instead, they complicate things even more. But that's what I think. Comment down below.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you about the border crisis. A new Fox News poll shows 87% of voters think the situation at the southern border is an emergency or a major problem. Concern for the border surged the most with Americans under 30 years old, Black voters and Democrats as well. That same poll also revealed 71% of voters blamed the border crisis on President Biden's lack of enforcement, which, of course, we've reported on firsthand. In the last 4 years, 57% blame former President Trump and the GOP blocking legislation. So the latest in the migrant crime, a Haitian national arrested in Boston on Tuesday for the rape and battery of a pregnant woman. The suspect entered the country illegally in 2021 near Del Rio, Texas, and was arrested by Border Patrol before being released without a notice to appear. Congressman, what do you say to these polls that also blame you and the Republicans for blocking legislation. And obviously, they're referring to that Senate deal, which would have allowed 5,000 illegals in the country every day.
It's a horrible deal. They still letting 5,000 people in. You know, these cases definitely goes to help Trump to show that it is a problem that unvetted people are coming into the country. And it's crazy that the Democrats can say, well, you know, we try to strike a deal. Well, we only let 5,000 in. Like, it's a small number. How about zero?
Yeah, I think that we knew that deal was really just painting, a whitewash over the problem. It wasn't really fixing the problem. It was just going to absolve the first 5,000 immigrants that were going to come across the border. Look, the facts don't lie. That we've had over 12 million people cross the southern border, 2.5 million known gotaways. We've had 99 people that were known suspected terrorists on the terrorist watch list that have entered into this country. These facts don't lie. You have anecdotal stories like the one you just mentioned, where we have people that have been violently assaulted and raped. You have hundreds of thousands of people each year dying of fentanyl poisoning.
But all of this news doesn't go mainstream media, so the regular people are not really aware of this. Only the people that see the problem on the streets are the ones that may speak about this. But the mainstream media are not talking about this. It's crazy. When Trump talks about it, he gets looked at like a crazy man.
Americans know someone who has been, or a family that's been impacted by the fentanyl poisoning. So all the rhetoric in the world isn't going to eliminate the fact that the American people see and feel the impact of illegal immigration under the Biden-Harris administration.
Right. But what I'm asking you is, what do you say to these polls that say voters also blame you and your colleagues?
Look, I'll say it again, that the bill that we were faced with was only going to ignore the first 5,000. It was only going to ignore the numbers. You don't fix a situation by erasing the first few data entries.
So it's not a fix. It's just bringing in less people. That's retarded.
Okay. The House Oversight Committee is demanding information from Google now after it admitted that it censored search results on the Trump assassination attempt. Google executives are now facing a renewed call to testify. I want to get your take on this, because Google already admitted that they censored the search results for the assassination attempt, and now you and your colleagues want more. You want them to testify. Meta's AI chatbot also told some users that the July 13th attempt on Trump's life was fictional, claiming that it was initially meant to avoid spreading false information. Google has been pressed over why its search results did not bring up Trump when users typed in assassination attempt. They say it was aimed at avoiding predictions on political violence, Congressman. What are you and your colleagues going to do about social media, who are really controlling the information flow that the rest of us see?
Yeah, I think that this is a dangerous event when you have big tech that's basically censoring the information to the American people. It always appears that it's one-sided. It never benefits the Republican candidate for office. It appears to be a very partisan effort in errors in algorithms. So I would say those are the kind of questions that we want to get down to the bottom of. What are the algorithms? What were the errors? And then specifically ask. So look, Maria, for example, in politics, candidates will pay money to Google and other advertisers just so that when people are searching their opponent, your own name appears high in the search results. Google is basically admitting that they were doing this without even Kamala Harris having to pay advertising dollars to do such.
Mm-hmm. So what are the consequences here? Can you do anything about it? I mean, what should we expect as a result of Google admitting that they actually manipulated the search results around Trump?
Yeah, I think at this point, given the fact that we don't hold the other two branches, we're going to have to just try to shed light and expose and continue to expose Google and Facebook whenever they do such things.
All right. Meanwhile, there's this. Former President Trump requested a delay in sentencing in the so-called hush money case against him in New York. He says it's election interference to sentence him before the election. Judge Juan Merchan expected to rule on the request September 16th. This sentencing is currently set for September 18th. Your thoughts?
September 18th, if he goes to jail, because the normal thing is that when a regular person goes to court and that day gets sentenced, from right there, they take him out back and they take him to Rikers Island. That's just the normal phase of things. But if Trump goes in there and then they give him a date when he needs to go in, that will be funny. But if they give him like jail at home where he cannot talk to the media, he got to stay home maybe for the next 2 months or 3 months past the election. That's another thing that they could do. But personally, I want to see them take him in jail right from the courtroom. From right there to put handcuffs on him and take him out back, and then a car down to Rikers Island. That will be epic. Because I'm wondering, are people going to allow that? Are the people going to rise up and complain about the fact that they're taking Trump to jail right now? This is insane. Because the next couple of days after that, September 18th, are going to be epic. Or maybe you'll get more people to vote for him in November. Because then, if he's in jail and they vote him to win, now what? You know what I mean? Like, you get to like break the shackles and walk out of Rikers Island, a free man, leader of the United States? Or can he run the country from jail? Are you allowed to run the country from inside of Rikers Island? That makes no sense. But it will be epic because everything Trump does is the first time ever, the biggest thing ever. And then if the judge says he got a service sentence and then he's allowed to get out and run the country, that will be hilarious. Because that means what? When he comes out, he's coming after everybody. But I don't know how the president could go after anybody. Well, as the president, you are the law. You know what I mean? So you could use the law in your favor. So I don't know. Can the president do anything about it? But it will be hilarious. Again, we should start like a betting ring. I'm going to look online to see there's a betting ring. If September 18th, Trump goes to jail, it's going to be epic. I think I hope it happens so that he could win. Because then the only talking point the Democrats are going to have is, how can you vote for somebody in jail? You can't do it. Don't do it. Don't vote for that guy that's in jail. Sorry to be making that voice, but I think it's hilarious. Too funny. So Trump, September 18th, put it down on my calendar. Hope they leave him right there. Oh, and by the way, if he goes to jail, he cannot take the Secret Service agents with him because that's false imprisonment. Like, you can't imprison somebody for doing their job. So that means he has to walk into jail by himself, and he got to look out for himself. Whatever inmates are in there, hopefully they'll look out for him and not try to extort him or anything like that. But he's going to be on his own trying to figure out jail, trying to figure out the jail system so he doesn't get hurt. Too funny.
Yeah, this was a sham trial. This judge is completely conflicted. I was there for one of the days. I got to actually hear Michael Cohen admit on the stand that he was stealing from President Trump, falsifying his expenses, and yet the one that's being prosecuted was Donald Trump. Everyone knows this is a sham trial, and it should be dropped completely, if not pushed beyond the election.
All right, we'll be watching that, Congressman. It's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Hey, like I say, we are living in some crazy time where there's a probability where the guy running for president might get sent to jail. The man even took a bullet to the face just to be the president of the United States. So there's a lot to be said. In October, Trump is going to be going back to where he got shot at. I think it's called somewhere in PA, Bell Park, but I don't want to mess it up. So he's going back to PA and he's going to finish his conversation. That's one thing he says. He says he's going to walk up in there. He's going to say, as I was saying, and finish that talk to show that Americans are fearless. can't beat that with a hat. So shout out to Trump. Hopefully he'll get sent to jail because I want to see what happens. Now the DNC, they're going to have a Chicago convention next week, and it is hell. Check this out.
While the Secret Service and other federal agencies will be taking point.
Let me start over. You know, the RNC convention was very, very cool, very chill. Like all the Donald Trump convention, they're very good people, no trouble, no troublemakers. Like the media may say, the far right, they're crazy, insane. But when the RNC had a convention, it was the nicest convention ever. You know, you didn't hear a peep outside or inside, calm and cool and chill. But the DNC, the extreme leftists are out of their mind. Check out what they're up against.
Chicago is ready. That message coming from the city's police superintendent this week as he detailed the department's plans for next week's Democratic National Convention. And while the Secret Service and other federal agencies will be taking point, local police will also play a vital role, especially in dealing with the expected thousands of pro-Palestinian demonstrators. In the run-up to the convention, Chicago police officers have received new de-escalation training. The department says more than 2,500 officers also received 48 hours of specialized training on how to respond to large-scale demonstrations and civil unrest. More than 500 officers from other departments will also help out, although we are told their direct contact with the public will be minimal. So let's bring in News Nation's Alex Capriello, who is live here in Chicago. And Alex, the building behind you is going to play a key role in the event of mass arrests next week.
That's right, Nicole. Inside this police department right behind me is an old courtroom that hasn't really been used in years. It's dusty, but it just got a makeover because it is being prepared during this DNC to handle mass arrests. We're about 5 miles from the United Center, about 6 miles from downtown Chicago. That's where the majority of the planned protests are going to be concentrated. But this courtroom and this police station can hold upwards of about 100 people. So in the likelihood of mass arrest, CPD can shuttle upwards of about 100 people at a time through these doors so that way they can process paperwork, or in the event that they have a warrant or an outstanding crime or committed a violent crime, they can see a judge. But this strategy is going to be used for the week of the DNC. But after that, court operations go back to normal throughout Cook County.
And so, Alex, there's this new Illinois law. It went into effect last year. It's called the Pretrial Fairness Act, which kind of dictates the way arrests can be processed. So how is all that going to factor into what potentially happens next week?
Yeah, that was a huge factor in my discussion with the pretrial court's judge about how that new law that's only been in effect for
they're expecting 30,000 protesters,
a little less than 1 year, will factor into the way that CPD handles arrests during protests, demonstrations, or riots. Really, this is all about eliminating cash bail, right? This law went into effect so that way it prevents jail overcrowding and also targeting of minority communities. CPD has been advised that whenever possible during arrest during this DNC period, they have to take a good look at the person that they're arresting and decide whether or not they are eligible to potentially just be cited on the street, given a notice to appear at a future date. And if so, they won't have to be transported here. They won't have to be locked up or to see a judge. Now, I asked the judge whether or not this could backfire on the city of Chicago, meaning whether or not this could actually just allow criminals right back onto the streets to reoffend. Here's how she responded.
I think that's a valid question. And for anyone who is charged with an act of violence, they may not be released as quickly because their hearing may take longer because there could be a petition to detain that person filed by.
An act of violence. That's the new talking point. Is it an act of violence? Selling drugs?
The state. So there are consequences of a rearrest and violating the conditions of release.
No matter what, violent offenders or those who have a warrant out for their arrest will come here no matter what. They will see a judge and potentially could go to jail. But the point of this Pretrial Fairness Act is to make sure that they are not taking low-level offenses and wasting jail space on those people, or having CPD who are going to
Fairness Act. What are we talking about?
who have a lot on their hands during the DNC week aren't overextending themselves.
All right, Alex Capriello live for us here in Chicago.
All right. So the numbers fluctuate. They're talking about 30,000. Check out this news report talking about 100,000.
The Democratic National Convention starts Monday in Chicago. Big problems could erupt outside the convention hall. Tens of thousands of protesters are expected to demonstrate against Israel's war on Hamas. And local officials fear the city is not ready to control crowds. CBN's Paul Petit reports from Chicago.
Much of the world watched July.
The peaceful demonstrating, nothing but peaceful powder in the background.
24th, as anti-Israel demonstrators in Washington, D.C. raised a Palestinian flag and defaced monuments in protest to Prime Minister.
That's crazy. The Palestinian flag in America? It's ridiculous.
Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress. The next global stage for protesters is in Chicago, host to the Democratic National Convention.
Our police are still handcuffed.
Alderman Raymond Lopez and some fellow city council members don't like that prospect and are not confident it will be stopped.
All I have to think about is the 2020 riots that happened after the murder of George Floyd. Our police department was caught completely off guard by the organized chaos that descended upon our city.
Chicago residents remember those riots.
They let them destroy the buildings. They let them steal whatever they wanted.
I'm scared to death, to tell you the truth. I'm very concerned, very worried. I believe there's going to be professional anarchists coming into the city that are here to do nothing more than wreak havoc upon us.
Most of the convention activity will take place inside the security perimeter of Chicago's United Center. There, Vice President Kamala Harris.
Hello. Yeah. Yo calculé también, aunque tú quites los 600 que ellos quieren, el bill como quiera es 1,300.
Pero ¿por qué que el bill de la casa está en $1,300? ¿Tú no pagaste los otros meses, pues?
Yo pago todo, más ese solo de 290 que falté. Y yo no sé cómo subió. El último bill de ahora fue de 360. Y ellos están diciendo que en total es 1,300. Más el depósito, 1,900. Es más, un bill de más de 500 pesos, mucho, la careta.
Pero ok, es que tú tienes que pagar 300.
Let me mute this. Let me sign up. Dame colgar esta vaina que estoy grabando. All right, my electric bill is $1,900. I don't know why. Life is crazy. And I'll continue with the report in a minute. Let me just play the video here.
Will rally delegates in person since a virtual roll call vote earlier this month made her the Democratic presidential nominee.
Democrats have gone part of the way down this path with Hillary Clinton before, but this has a very different feel to it. The circumstances are different. I think there's a bit of whiplash. The Democrats went from almost the depths of despair with Biden at the top, even though they liked him, to now such a high energy and optimism about what is possible.
Gonzalez says the key is moving from a focus on Biden's age and ability to concentrating on the opposition.
Now that Harris is at the top of the ticket, it doesn't guarantee that Democrats are going to win, but it allows for a more normal conversation or exchange of ideas in a campaign about who might be too liberal or too conservative or too MAGA or too, it's just more normal than what it was when President Biden was running for re-election.
The convention will also aim to unite Democrats and adopt their liberal party platform.
Abortion is murder!
Access to abortion is going to continue to be a main talking point. Beyond the differences on policy and Vice President Harris having to defend some of what the administration has done, Democrats are going to make the change argument. And so we're going to see Democrats really embrace the contrast between an aging white guy and a woman of color.
Throughout the four-day convention, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, and the Secret Service, now under new leadership, say they'll do what's necessary to keep the city safe, especially in the wake of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump.
And let me state this unequivocally. Chicago was ready. We were born ready.
Despite all the planning and training, the Chicago Police Department is still 1,100 officers short of being fully staffed. And with more than 50 organizations planning to protest here during the Democratic National Convention, many feel it's going to be more than they can handle.
They are going to push the envelope. They are going to push it to the limit. If there's a line drawn here, they're going to certainly want to cross that line.
God has love for the whole world.
Chicago for Jesus is ready for the convention as well. The street ministry is known for praying outside abortion clinics and ministering at Muslim rallies.
We believe that the message of Christ and its beauty actually shines greatest in the darkness. So we're going to go that day to preach the gospel and make disciples of those lost and dying protesters.
Jesus wants to change us. He wants to redeem us. He wants to make us new.
While hope is for a peaceful event here, some city officials feel today's atmosphere is eerily similar to Chicago's 1968 Democratic National Convention. Back then, anti-Vietnam protesters clashed with police.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
And if July's Capitol protest is any indication of things to possibly come to Chicago, the Windy City could be holding its breath.
Because we know we have outside agitators who want to descend on this city, because we have elected officials like some of my colleagues who are encouraging organizations to make it greater than 1968, and because you have a mayor who supports protesters in all their forms, you know, the opportunity for chaos is just exponentially worse than I think it was in 1968.
In Chicago, Paul Petit, CBN News.
Thank you, Paul. Leaders of 4 Muslim groups predict as many as, listen to this, 100,000 protesters will show up at the DNC. More than 150 groups are taking part. The numbers increased since Paul filed the report. Chicago city officials have set up new courts to handle mass arrests, a move already being challenged by the ACLU, and a federal judge recently rejected an appeal to give the protesters wider room in the city. So now you're going to have all these protesters in a confined space. And remember, Chicago, as Paul said, down 1,100 officers. Pray for next week in Chicago in the Windy City.
Pray for Chicago, really.
A man said, pray for Chicago. It's going to be crazy because I guess because they are the one in power right now, the Democratic Party, and that's what they're protesting by. We're talking about a party that applauds every extreme left idea. You know what I mean? So they called it upon themselves. They're maniacs. All right, can we watch one more video before calling it a day? This isn't a coincidence. What is this guy talking about? Joe Rogan sees something in UK riots. There's a bunch of riots in UK. But yeah, the DNC is not going to be anything like the Republican Party convention. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully, if you're still watching, remember to give this video a thumbs up. Can I get the little bubble? Nope, doesn't work. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Verbalonlife.
Donald Trump was on message with Elon Musk last night. And that's the subject of the riff. So the live Elon Musk interview on X with former President Donald Trump was one massive, humongous, huge event. Now, there are a lot of numbers being thrown around. According to Fox News report, at its peak, about 1.3 million people were listening live. The Trump team has numbers slightly bigger, and when they add in impressions, views, and posts related to the interview, what you have is a really big, gigantic media event, live and unscripted. Now, I know it's an important event because the liberal media is howling against it today. That's a surefire measuring tool of its success. And there's plenty of substance to that interview. For example, talking about the economy, Mr. Trump mentioned several times how voters want to hear about the economy because they cannot afford groceries. He said he'd cut taxes not only for businesses, but for the middle class, and he would further deregulate the economy. He said he intends to get rid of the criminals that have been given to us by other countries and explained that he will get tough on trade using the principle of reciprocity. He intends to close up the Department of Education, move it out to the states. He emphasized how in his first term, he achieved record unemployment for minorities. He repeated over and over how Biden-Harris energy policies have caused inflation. He also advocated for nuclear power. Mr. Trump vowed to drill, baby, drill. Elon Musk said at one point, I think we need a government efficiency commission to say, hey, where are we spending all this money? Elon offered to serve on it, and Mr. Trump immediately said he loved that and called Elon the greatest cutter. And Mr. Trump also said that we need more energy in order to power AI. On foreign policy, Trump talked about how he left Iran broke, had Putin scared, also how he dealt with North Korea successfully, while Biden has allowed a Russia-China alliance that is dangerous to the world. Before the interview, Mr. Trump returned to the X site, of course, formerly Twitter, and he said, are you better off now than you were when I was president? Good question. He said this to his 89.2 million followers. This is on top of the interview with Mr. Musk. In other words, one way or another, millions upon millions of people heard Donald Trump's message in just the last 24 hours. And the good news is Mr. Trump was on message, reminding people of his substantive, successful policies. In other words, full of insights, not insults. A good day's work, wouldn't you say, folks? And that's the riff. All right.
Shout out to Trump 2024. Let's go. We gotta get rid of these extreme lefties out of their mind. Should I continue recording or should I say peace?